o'clock, I'll call the August 12th meeting of the Middleton Plan Commission to order. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Adams.
Here.
Teniro. Here. Paulson.
Here.
Shaw.
Here.
Summers. Here. Summers, are you on?
Here.
I hear her.
very
quiet.
Okay,
Quiet.
you're really quiet. I think we need to,
Up the power.
are you able to turn the volume up on your end? I have some knobs down here. I can.
Yeah,
try.
one of those works.
It's like I heard her on someone's laptop, but not. Try again now.
Aaron, can
something,
you try
Aaron.
again?
Here.
What's up?
A little better.
That's what like is high like.
Can you turn your volume up, Aaron?
Aaron, can you try again? I just hit it 2 more notches up.
Here.
Okay.
There we go.
Better.
Yay.
All right.
It was on our end, not your end. so.
And Chair Sonnentag is present. Bruce is absent and excused.
Okay. We do have public hearings every now and then. We do have one on the agenda for this evening. This is a request for a conditional use permit, a CUP, for a medical clinic called Vital Care of Madison. That's at 3148 Deming Way. Is there anybody here that would like to speak? One of the thousands out there? No? Okay, seeing nobody, I will close the public hearing. And we'll go to the regular agenda, and that's approval of the minutes. Any additions, changes? Anybody? If not, I will declare the minutes approved. And item 1 under action and discussion is sign design review for 6230 University Avenue. Is there a motion?
I'll move to recommend approval. Whoa.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Or any discussion, I guess? None? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 2 is the specific implementation plan modification for fence and landscaping at Quail Run. And we do have, I'm sorry, I forgot your name already. Don Hendrickson. It's not on my list, so I didn't see it. And if anybody has a question, Don's here to answer. The recommendation from staff was approval as SIP modification. So is there a motion?
Move to recommend approval as a minor SFP modification.
Second.
Discussion. Lisa?
Can I?
Oh,
Go ahead.
You made the motion.
I was gonna ask Daphne a question. It's a solid white vinyl fence. And I remember years ago, we had a discussion, I don't know if you remember this, about not wanting solid vinyl fences, but is that anywhere in our ordinance, or was that just kind of a preference in a residential area? I mean, this abuts the street, so doesn't
Yeah.
bother me at all, but.
I don't recall exactly that conversation, but we do have like certain materials that are allowed or that are, allowed for fences and certain materials that aren't allowed. And so vinyl is allowed as a fencing material.
Oh, it is, okay.
So,
Even
yeah.
a solid vinyl?
Mhm,
Okay, well,
mhm.
there you go.
Lisa?
Thanks.
I just have some questions about the landscaping species. So this is in a PUD. Our new zoning code builds in extra points for natives and requires that 75% of all landscaping points and plantings be native. And I notice that's not the case with this one.
Mhm.
And so I guess I'm just wondering, I know it's a PUD, so some flexibility is allowed, but I also think the PUD gives us the opportunity to try to guide the owner in that direction, and I'm not sure why we wouldn't.
Which of these species are not native?
The Mugo pine, eastern redbud, Norway spruce, hydrangea. I'm just wondering would there be a willingness to change some of the species to bring in native plants that are native to Wisconsin, shrubs?
We would certainly go like, if it doesn't consider that, there's not a question about that. I think a lot of what.
Can you come to the microphone up
sorry.
here?
We certainly would be open to that conversation. I think what the landscaper was looking at is a lot of variety, a lot of color. So if we could accomplish both of those things in some form or fashion, that would be preferable.
Thank you.
That,
Did the PUD is adopted have any landscaping specifications?
No.
No.
No, this is a really old GIP that we had.
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I guess I
Any other
understand the
discussion?
point about the, varieties, but those are all very common around here. And being where it is, just seems like we're not trying to introduce anything near a native plantings, not near prairie or anything that would influence that survey, so.
Well, I appreciate the comment or the observation, but I would just say that the zoning code doesn't differentiate between
I understand.
areas. They are lovely, but I feel like if we wrote it into the zoning code, there was a reason for it. We're trying to move in that direction of more sustainable landscaping, and native trees and shrubs will help with that.
I guess, I have a couple of spruce trees that I have to get sprayed every year because of needle drop disease, which is really kind of an ugly growth on the branches. And that's the only reason I think you'd want to change it at this point, is because of disease. If there's anything that is common to these species that you pointed out. But that's something your landscaper can let you know about too. Any other discussion?
Can I ask Daphne a question as the zoning officer? When the PUD is silent, would we default to our zoning ordinance and say, it's in our zoning ordinance, right? That says you have to be 75% native plants. You get the sense that we'd be totally within our discretion to require conformance to that?
Yeah, I think this is a conversation we've had a couple times, and in some PUDs, they specifically say, in cases where it's silent, we would defer to the zoning ordinance. In this case, I don't recall that being in there. However, I would say, typically we would make a recommendation that they, follow what is currently in our zoning ordinance. And that's similar with our SIP modifications for like signage and stuff. We would follow what is recommended in the sign code and then first, and then, allow for some additional flexibility because it is in a PUD.
Then I'll move to amend the main motion to make the minor SIP modification contingent upon the applicant installing native plants to account for at least 75% of plantings and at least 75% of landscaping plants.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay.
Do you want to state it as, well, that is the text of the zoning ordinance.
Yep.
Right? Okay.
Any further discussion? So we'll vote on the amendment first. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just to clarify, Summers, did you vote in the affirmative? Did you vote aye?
Yeah, aye.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, so what does that mean for me? Do I need to come back with a new plan?
Just to
You could just
staff.
send it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll approve it. Yep.
Okay,
yeah, we won't make it come back here.
okay.
Do we want the
And-
motion to specify staff can approve it or it's implied? I think it's implied.
I think
It's
it's implied.
And do we have permission to go forward with the fence then?
Sure.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have to vote on.
We have to vote on the main motion.
We'll have to vote on the main motion?
Yes.
Isn't that?
No, that was an amendment.
That was an amendment.
we now have a new amended motion that's on the table.
Okay, even though we just voted on the amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. It wasn't ever this hard when okay, all in favor of the main motion?
I,
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 3, the SIP plan modification for patio at Red Tail Ridge Townhomes.
I move approval as a minor SIP modification.
I will second.
Discussion?
Abby, we've not heard anything more, have we?
We have, I can share an update. Daphne, if you just stop sharing for just a second, I will pull it up here. So apologies to you all that the document that was in the packet was a little bit challenging to read. So I'm going to just outline here on the screen the locations for the concrete patios. So these are the locations. They're on the ends of 8 of the townhome units. The measurements for these are 4 feet by 8 feet.
We did get dimensions.
Yes.
Oh. okay.
And the, you can see, I think it's a little bit more clear. Oops.
Yeah.
Blew right past it.
that makes it much more concrete.
No.
Yes. So you can see the dimensions here. The reason that we brought this to the Plan Commission is that these, they differ on the setback from the edge of the patio to the lot line, depending on which townhome unit it's located on. But they're 1 to 2 feet away from the lot line. And I think the applicant was like, well, it's a PDD, so can't we allow it? And the document does have setback requirements, and it does mention that you can have a 0-foot setback, but we interpreted that to mean between the units, because it's a townhome. And it didn't specify a setback for accessory structures. And so per the last conversation that we had, we looked at the standard zoning code, which would usually require a 3-foot side setback. And because the patios were not shown on the SIP document that was approved, and our staff had already had to make some interpretations on a couple of other smaller issues for bump outs, we didn't feel comfortable approving it administratively. So we brought it here for an SIP modification, but our engineering staff didn't have any concerns or comments, and our recommendation is for approval.
Hey,
So-
hi Abby, can I just point out real quickly one other note? We also made the assumption that we made related to the setbacks because the garage access sidewalk also extends 4 feet into the side yard. So
Yes, and
we're
that
not going any further than that, and it does already exist as a condition on each building.
is the other item that thank you, Carrie. That was the other item that we administratively had made the determination on, because even though it wasn't shown on the SIP document that was brought forward, we assumed that, a reasonable person could have assumed that there would need to be a walkway to the garage. And so we did go ahead and issue the permit for that. But we did, once we saw that the patios were going in, we thought, well, we should bring this back to the Plan Commission for a modification.
I do appreciate the legible dimensioned
Mhm.
drawing.
So these are considered accessory structures.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
And so there's no possibility that someone could put a roof over this or enclose it.
That's correct. Not without another
Without a
SIP
SIP
modification.
modification. Do we even want to worry about? Yeah. Sometimes we put a note that tells the homeowner they can't enclose it as a patio. But I don't think we want to bother with that right now. We'll just let Daphne tell them no when they come in for a building permit
Yeah.
in 5 years, so.
Carrie, do you have any comments on that?
No other comments. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item 4, request for a conditional use permit, a CUP for a medical clinic called Vital Care of Madison at 3148 Deming Way, which was a former Dog Days daycare center.
I think it's still gonna be this is going in next to the doggy daycare.
I thought it was an existing building they were buying.
It is an existing building, but I think that there's another tenant space, if I'm remembering
Oh.
correctly. I think
okay.
the doggy daycare is staying, and then this is like, as you're pulling in, this is on the left side, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that on the drawing that they sent. But
I would make a motion to, if we could scroll back down to see what my motion is, to direct staff to compile all materials in a report of preliminary recommended findings, to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for the next meeting.
is there a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item 5, which is the 2026 Planning and Community Development Department narrative. Take it away, Abby.
Thank you. So this is our annual budget narrative document. Just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. We changed the mission statement for the department to better reflect what we do and also the goals of the city as reflected in the approved strategic plan and comprehensive plan. I think Alder Heniro had raised that during our budget last year, and we said, oh, it's just always been like that. So we made that change, and we're open to any comments that the commission has on that. A couple of other items, we've listed the 2026 goals that we have for our department. We have some big ones. We're working on the community campus plan, the affordable housing TID extension funds, and the plan associated with that. We had hoped to complete the update to the active transportation plan this year, but due to staff changes and being down one position for several months this year, we aren't going to complete it this year, but we're continuing to make good progress on the active transportation plan. We have several capital budget items that we're going to be putting forward, and then we still have 3 previously funded capital budget items that we're completing. Well, at least 3, actually, at least 4, because we have the subdivision ordinance too, and that's not included, but we plan to complete the subdivision ordinance yet this year. We have to finish build out of electric vehicle infrastructure to serve the city's fleet. We're completing an LED streetlight replacement program with grant funding, and we need to make some additional bus stop improvements. And then we're just continuing to implement the sustainable purchasing policy. There are some staff trainings that are required as part of that, and we're continuing to program Stonehorse Green. Many of the significant issues facing our department are the same as they have been previously. Just trying to get a lot of work done with a small staff. On the plus side, we've been administering $5 million in grant funding, and we're finalizing reporting on the $3 million grant that we have. So we hope soon to have that completely off our plates. And then on the back side, in the workload activities chart, those are the workload activities that we've been reporting for as long as I've worked for the city. And we started talking about it. And we're not sure if these numbers are really that helpful anymore with the new zoning ordinance, because these are inputs to the work that we do, but they're not necessarily things that we want to encourage. So we were trying to think of ways to report information that would be more useful to the Plan Commission. So we put together the second chart, which kind of shows all of the major planning documents, ordinances that our department is responsible for, and the year that it was last updated, because a lot of the work that we've done over the last 5 years has been focused on trying to get all of our documents updated and in a good place, and then just kind of be on a regular schedule to update them. So if you look in the 2025 column, there are, I think, five documents that are probably going to stick out to you. One is the subdivision ordinance that's on our agenda later this evening, last updated in 1981. And then we have chapter 29, the wetlands zoning ordinance, which was last updated in 94. And we have started conversations with Luke Melodic, who's our new city engineer, about trying to work with him on getting an update and a full review done of that document. We're in the process of updating what is called the bicycle and pedestrian plan. It's well overdue. It was last updated in '09. And then we have two corridor plans. It was actually the Allen Boulevard corridor plan, but we're hoping to expand that corridor plan and also cover Century Avenue when we do the update. And that one was last updated in '07, and we have the Parmenter corridor plan last updated in '08. So once we finish all of the ordinances, those are going to be pretty high on the list, because they really are no longer reflective of the city's goals. And our zoning ordinance now has made them very outdated, because there's a lot of language within the plan that's no longer supported through the zoning. And then in the new chart on performance measures, I'm hoping that this is a chart that we can continue to expand with metrics. We have a lot of recommendations for metrics that we can collect in the strategic plan, and some of those are not things that we're already collecting. And so our staff team is working together to identify things that are either already being collected and would be valuable for the Plan Commission to know about, or things that we can start collecting that wouldn't be too much of a lift on staff. One of the focus areas I think is going to be on the sustainability metrics, because we have some pretty clear goals for benchmarking those, and we're working on getting our numbers, making sure that our numbers are all accurate so that we can report those in the narrative document. So that's all I have on that. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Doesn't seem to be any.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I guess I'm looking at the 12 committees and commissions. Seems kind of excessive. And I know one of the priorities in the strategic plan is to consolidate our committees, and council started that and made some progress on it. There's still a little bit to do. And I'm wondering if you have any suggestions for how to reduce the burden of those 12 committees and commissions. I mean, honestly, a workload activity that I would like to see is, how many meetings does the planning department have to staff? Because I bet it swamps all the other departments.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been asked this question about consolidating committees before, and I feel like we're making some progress toward at least better defining the roles of committees with what's happening with the affordable housing plan, and the kind of the CDA and the workforce housing committee are starting to work together. And it's possible that some of the duties that have been assigned to the CDA would end up shifting over to the arts committee. Maybe the arts committee becomes the placemaking committee. We've talked about that as a possibility. We have a joint zoning committee that might go away if the incorporation of the town happens. And then we also have a couple, such as, well, Landmarks Commission actually has been meeting monthly recently, but we have a couple of committees that haven't been meeting every month. So it's kind of more on an as needed, like the Zoning Board of Appeals. That workload seems to have reduced significantly with the new code. So even though we still have a Zoning Board of Appeals, they don't need to meet as often.
That's good.
Yeah.
And in addition to consolidating, there's also opportunities like going to a quarterly schedule or an as needed basis, like for Landmarks. I know they're working on comp plan item of updating the zoning ordinance and maybe some other things, but I'm just always looking for ways to reduce your workload. I noted the strategic plan also suggested that the Ped Bike and Transit Committee should be the purview of Public Works and not planning. Is that something you all have talked about?
We haven't really talked about that specifically, but I will say that We have been doing some amazing interdepartmental coordination related to ped bike and traffic safety issues. Our Public Works Director, Ben John, called the first ever interdepartmental meeting to
Traffic
focus on
safety.
traffic safety. We had our representatives of our police department there, as well as the streets crew, planning staff, engineering, public works. And that's gonna be a monthly internal staff meeting. And I think that there's a lot of interest and enthusiasm right now in trying to coordinate across departments with Parks and Rec involved as well. So I think there's a lot of excitement. They're assisting a lot with the active transportation plan. So I don't think, I'm not saying that they're looking at staffing the committee, but there's definitely a lot of excitement around those issues.
That's great. It's great to hear there was that joint meeting. And I did not know about that.
It was just, yeah, it was just an internal staff meeting, and it was great to hear from the PD on the intersections that they're seeing issues, and then the streets crew and some of the issues that they identified, and we just never had that group of people in the same room to talk about that before, so.
Good.
That's great.
I like hearing that that's happening now. Another question, when does a capital project involving infrastructure become a planning activity instead of public works? And I'm thinking of something like the Cayuga connector, or what was another one? I know that's getting into the capital projects, but I'm just wondering, how do you all draw that line?
Mhm. So, most of the bike ped infrastructure projects have fallen within our department to plan, oversee the construction of, and then it ends up going over to the Parks Department for maintenance. I know if it's a project that's TIF funded, we've also had our department doing like road projects, which is not really our skill set. But like Terrace Avenue, when we reconstructed Terrace Avenue, Parmenter Street between Highway 14 and the roundabout, those were both projects that were managed by the planning department rather than Public Works, and it probably was just due to lack of staff capacity in the Public Works department to manage those projects, and because they were TIF funded, they kind of fell to our department. But I know that's also been something that there's been kind of a little bit more collaboration recently on. We had the trailhead in our budget for the Pheasant Branch Conservancy, and that was something that the Parks Department said that should really be in our budget because we oversee the conservancy, and we were like, great. Because we would prefer not to do a construction project management, and you have more expertise in that area. So I know the Parks Director put that in their budget. Also, the road diet study had been in our budget because we viewed that as like a bike ped and planning issue. But the Public Works Director said, actually, I think, it's related to infrastructure within the right of way, and I would like for the road diet study to happen in their budget. And so again, like something we gladly accepted them taking on.
Let the record reflect, the
Mhm.
Public Works Department, the new Public Works Department
Yes.
is actually interested in road diets. I mean, there's a history here, which is why a lot of this was in planning. Because if you let Public Works take over a project, it was gonna be as much roadway concrete as possible, right? That was, so it's exciting to see this new.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm excited too.
Focus.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation.
Yeah, I mean, I think every department is struggling with staff capacity to like manage projects, and so it's kind of a conversation each time, like who has the capacity, like what projects are you juggling next year? So
Because, well, relative to committees, the fact that there's a bike ped transit committee rather than just a subcommittee or focus of the Transportation and Public Works Committee, right? Reflects that history of that if you don't make a separate committee, it gets lost, right?
Yep.
but there's no reason why it couldn't be absorbed into Public Works and Parks and Rec. As, right, I mean, that was always the concern, that bike pad would get lost
Yep.
in the glory that is the Public Works Committee of the past, which is how wide can we make the roads and how fast can we make the cars go? Got to give George something to write about. He's on vacation, yeah.
Any other discussion, comments?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay. Does that take us to item 7, the subdivision ordinance?
That, I think, takes us to item 6, because we need a
Oh, that's
vote
right,
on
sorry, yeah.
Item 6.
Getting ahead of myself.
Do you need a motion on that budget narrative?
I don't, well, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I
it
did
did
say
say
approve. Yeah, I recommended approval.
So
Oh, yeah.
I would make a motion to recommend approval to city council.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And that takes us to item 6, the 2026 Planning and Community Development Department Capital Budget Request. You're on again.
Yep, so we are requesting 8 different projects, in the capital budget for next year. First 2 are coming out of the Sustainability Committee. We have a city climate action roadmap, which is similar to the project that Middleton Cross Plains Area School District undertook, and they're making really good progress on getting their goals met, through a lot of new solar and other projects that they're working on. And then the second is for a community-wide climate roadmap, for the entire city, not just municipal operations. The third is maybe the most complicated, so I included a memo providing an update on where this project stands. And this is related to burying overhead utility lines on University Avenue. We don't have a cost estimate right now, and we may not have a cost estimate for this in time for the budget. But it is something that is eligible for TIF District 5 funding. It's written into the project plan. If we're able to get all of the utilities to give us a cost estimate and try to get those lines buried, I think it's a wonderful opportunity that's presented itself to the city through a project that MG&E is already doing voluntarily, to underground the lines from Branch Street East to the city limits. They also are willing to work with us between Park Street and Branch. Park to Branch would be 100% city initiative. But from Branch East to the city limits, MG&E will cover all of their costs, and it would just be working with the private communication providers, to get their lines off of those poles so that we can take the poles down. It is very difficult to coordinate with these entities. So I had a similar, I felt like we were in a almost similar place last year when we talked about the budget. It's a little bit better now because MG&E is actually doing work now in Middleton. And they have reached out a couple of times to meet and coordinate with us, and we do have an inventory now. So we know every pole along the corridor, we know who's on the pole. Some of them have city streetlights, and so there would be a cost there to add a new streetlight to serve an intersection. If we were able to underground all the lines and remove that pole, we may need to install a new city streetlight. Some of them have agreements to light private parking lots. So that's another wrinkle where it's possible we would need to coordinate with businesses along the corridor that have a light facing their parking lot to try to get them to agree, or there may need to be a replacement put in there. So it's quite complicated. And if there is one utility that decides not to cooperate, then that could kill the entire project. And so we're working really hard to try to get firm cost estimates and make sure we have everybody at the table and we're coordinated with the timeline and the schedule. But we don't have those estimates yet. And we're gonna continue to work on it. It's possible that the budget document would end up getting submitted as it is, just showing to be determined, and there might have to be a resolution to amend the budget, the TIF District 5 budget to allow the city to spend TIF money to get the project completed.
And your memo says it's approximately $1 million a mile, so this is less than a mile?
Did I say that in my memo? Oh, I think that was in the University Avenue corridor plan.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
I remember that number.
yes, $1 million per mile. So this one page that I included in the packet is an excerpt from the University
Corridor
Avenue
plan.
corridor plan, just to kind of show this is something the city has been working on and planning for. I don't know the costs. The section from Branch Street West is gonna involve hiring electricians to go in and upgrade services within 2 private buildings. So there's Delta Service that still serves a couple of the buildings. It's the Workstation building, if you're familiar with that. And I think the other one is the University Coin and Jewelry Store, if I'm remembering correctly. It's possible that at some point they must have had a cooler or something like that required that different type of service. And in order to do the conversion now, we would need to upgrade those. That is something that we did on Terrace Avenue when we undergrounded the lines on Terrace down here by Capitol Brewery. But in those instances, we were working in older homes. It was about $12,000 per home, if I'm remembering correctly, to upgrade the service just to be able to accept the undergrounding. These are commercial buildings and it's been many years since then, but there's not as many buildings as there were on Terrace, but it's a lot of coordination. Working on the plus side, I think that most of the businesses along the corridor would really see the value in this. And I also think it's a great opportunity for the city to have an adopted plan where we did substantial public engagement. Daphne handled this project and it was done over the Good Neighbor Festival season. And so we had so many people that weighed in on what they wanted to see. And I think this provides a really good opportunity for the city to say, we adopted a plan and now we're implementing it. And this is phase 1. And it's actually phase 2 because the zoning was phase 1. Like we implemented that when we adopted the zoning code, we implemented all the setback requirements that were approved in the plan. But this would be like the first phase of infrastructure improvements along the corridor. So I'm really hopeful that there's still support from the Plan Commission to continue to try to work on this, and that there will be support from the council to budget funds that will be required to make it happen. So that's number 3 on the list. Number 4 is implementation of a B-cycle bike share system. We had proposed B-cycle a couple times in the past. One of the biggest barriers was that they were requiring an annual operational cost to the city. And as you all know, our operating budget is quite constrained. We have negotiated an agreement, a tentative agreement, nothing is inked, with B-cycle that they would provide a bike share system for around $300,000 in capital without any annual operating expenses. So that's been a huge barrier to implementing the system previously. Madison and Fitchburg were both able to secure TAP grant funding to cover 80% of the cost of the last phase that we did. So we are putting in $300,000. Daphne submitted our grant application to the MPO yesterday for $240,000, and we're budgeting for a $60,000 match. The next item is picnic tables.
Was there, would that come out of TIF or general capital or tourism?
We were proposing capital budget. In the past, there hasn't been support from the Tourism Commission to fund it. I'm not sure if there's even a TIF district now with TIF 3 closing that could cover the
Right.
capital costs. So we were just proposing the capital borrowing. The next item is picnic tables at Stonehorse Green, and we're taking that to the CDA and proposing that come out of the CDA budget. Their meeting is Thursday night. The next item is bus shelter artwork. It's trying to complete the remaining shelters that we didn't get done with the first round. And then the Public Arts Committee is also proposing a downtown mural. We get a lot of positive feedback about the mural that we put in at the gateway to the downtown, the Love Your Neighbor mural. And so, Public Arts Committee would like to build on that success and have identified another location in downtown. And then the last item is a shade structure at Stonehorse Green, and that also is being proposed out of CDA. And that is it.
Okay. Lisa?
This is an impressive list. It looks like an aggressive list. And so my first question would be, can it all get done in 1 year? Just thinking of the easier items like the shade structure and the picnic tables, I kind of feel like the shade structure should be a higher priority because that will make the picnic tables more usable. I've sat there in the middle of the day and it's, yeah, shade is, I think, it would be a higher priority for me at least.
Okay.
So I love the idea of the climate action roadmap. I wonder if when the RFP goes out, if we can specify a page limit, because as much as I appreciate consultants and the work that they do, they often act as if they're getting paid by the page. And so I think to make it the most useful document for our staff, our council, and our residents, I really think some thought needs to go into what does the final product look like and make it clear to the bidders that this needs to be, accessible to the average member of the public. I'm wondering about the outreach part of it. So, because again, just knowing how busy staff is, I'm not sure all the work to get the roadmap project off the ground, and then shepherded through council is going to leave much time for the outreach to residents. And so that one is a little concerning. I totally see the value, but I wonder if that should be a 2027 proposal instead of 2026. And then there was a question about, I think there was a question about the bearing of utility lines and whether to do the part that's outside of the MG, would that part still be in TID 5?
Yes,
Okay.
we included, so our attorneys let us use the half mile as long as the project is specified within the project plan and that it benefits the entire, that it benefits the TIF district that it's serving. And we've worked with the attorneys to ensure that both of those are met.
Okay, because I feel like as long as the funding is there, why not do that?
Mhm.
That, that outside of MG&E scope area.
You had kind of a question in there about staff capacity, and I knew you were gonna ask that question, and so I I talked with the team as well as Kelly earlier today, and we think that we can handle all of the projects on the list, but the one that we were most concerned about is the outreach climate plan, and I think there are a couple of concerns that we have with that. One is that we haven't had a chance to ask any consultants how much that would actually cost. And so that was something that was put together at the sustainability committee meeting. And I'm concerned personally that if for a municipal roadmap, it costs us $125,000, that to do a community-wide one, it would be much more expensive than $125,000. Or if it's not that it might end up being very similar to the documents that the city has already approved and the same goals. And so that's why the word outreach, I think, got added, because I think our staff team believes that the most impactful thing that we can do for residents, well, we can do regulatory things, ordinance changes where state law allows it. But as far as like reaching our residents, that requires a significant amount of education and outreach. And we're doing a lot of that now through the Sustainable U program at the library, and through other methods. But my concern and I wasn't at the sustainability committee meeting where it was recommended, is that this type of document without having a more defined scope might not really end up being that beneficial to the city. And also just looking at the projects that our sustainability coordinator has on her plate right now, I would be concerned that that is one that would be really hard for us to accomplish.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I would agree. I know there were plans or potential plans to put solar on 2 of the wells and on the golf course clubhouse. And now, Commissioner Paulson brought up, can we accelerate any projects that would be eligible for funding that will soon no longer be available thanks to the current regime? And we can't, because it's just not gonna happen. And part of it is because Kelly is stretched so thin. So like I said, I love the idea of outreach to the community, very important, but I would defer that one until 2027. The Sustainable City Plan was written in 2022. I was still on sustainability at the time. And that plan hasn't been updated, and it was supposed to be updated for 25 through 27. I see that as not a Kelly obligation, but a sustainability committee obligation. Because we tried very carefully to make it clear that that document reflected what's in the comprehensive plan to give Kelly some prioritization from the committee. This is what we want to be working on. And it's been a little frustrating to me as a former sustainability committee member. My pet peeve is plans that don't get implemented or updated if they say they're going to be updated. So I think I'd rather postpone this item 2 to 2027 and just ask the sustainability committee to update the sustainable city plan for 25 through 27 and, keep working on that.
I agree, and that budget justification was really ambiguous, so I didn't even understand what the 50,000 is getting you. So I would agree to defer that. Because presumably it's a capital expenditure to hire a consultant to do an outreach. And you don't get a lot for 50,000 in terms of outreach.
Well, and see, I interpreted it as we're gonna spend $50,000 having meetings because we have a communications manager who can do like the actual outreach. And the key messages could come from sustainability committee and
Mhm.
coordinator. And so, but is that for?
Yeah.
Projectors? For.
Well, I
for
mean,
Being
you-
able to stream from
Yeah,
the meeting venue, yeah.
yeah,
So-
that's why I was unclear what. Because normally when you hire consultants and you do public engagement meetings, you're getting 2 or 3 of their staff and their time and travel to run the focus groups or the meetings, but.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Anything else?
I guess we.
so was there a recommended motion is to recommend approval to council with deferral of the project PL 2602 to 2027?
Yes. And I'll second that motion.
Discussion, further discussion, I should say. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That gets us to 7, subdivision ordinance part 1. You're up again.
Daphne.
Oh, Daphne. Oh.
Yes, so we have brought part 1. Part 1 has been reviewed by planning staff and engineering staff. And we've started a review of parts of part 2. Part 2 is more of like design guidelines and, the more nitty gritty stuff. And so we've started a review of the access management plan, which is like how long can driveways, those kinds of things. But part 1 has mostly been completed. We have a lot of comments added into that document, and then our consultant is going to review them and revise them based off of those comments. So before they do that, we would like plan commission to just talk about a couple of these policy decisions. And so the first one is condominium review. And so this has been a kind of a hot topic in planning, just since we've, allowed these 0 lot lines and all of that. But then people learn about the water lateral requirements to do the 0 lot lines, and then they ask, can I do a condominium? And so we would really just like some clarification from commissioners if you guys have, opinions on what should be included into this. As of right now, the subdivision ordinance just kind of defers to the state ordinance. And state ordinance allows for the county, and then the county allows for municipalities to do, additional reviews for condos. And so Dane County does allow for us to do, add some additional regulations or reviews for condominiums. And so we would like your input on whether, we should review those. Staff, as in Mark Opitz, before he left, he reviewed this portion of it, and he stated that he would like to retain at least some kind of review, just because, we will have to look or it would be nice to look over, a lot of those shared utilities that condos have to have basically in order to operate. And that way we can avoid some heartburn later on if something goes wrong with a condo. They usually, will come to the city and say, this happened or that happened. And so that is why we would like to retain a little bit of that review, at least in the beginning, to look through, the condo documents and all of that.
Okay.
So I would generally recommend cities don't want to review a condo plat,
Okay.
simply because the county already does it. Because my reading of the statutes and the ordinance would be that if the city decides they want to take it over, they have to take over the whole thing,
Okay.
which is a lot of
Yeah.
additional staff. And so the issue, I mean, so we could write something in the subdivision that says that a copy of any condo plat shall be submitted to the public works director, so that then you can review it in-house for the utilities and the cross easements on the utilities. But it's, I always tell the students, sorry, Scott, right? A condo plat, it's weird calling it a condo plat because it's not a plat. It's not, it doesn't create any lots. It doesn't really affect zoning at all. It can't alter the use of a parcel or a building at all. So I don't think you want to take it over, because a lot of it is just the kind of legal recording of
Right.
a condo association. And
Yeah. And my opinion is that it adds another review, which can, deter some people from wanting to do a condo in the first place. So.
and just to be clear, the plan commission does not want to review condo plans. You do not want to review, because I'm not even convinced we have any chapter 236 authority over condo plats. We just,
Right.
it just,
Was that a motion? Just kidding.
no. So I think the guidance would be that I think we can require as a submission of any subdivision plat
Okay.
or any building plan, if there's going to be a condo, that the condo plat instruments be also just sent to the public works, because they have to review the sewer lateral anyway, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
But when people realize that if they're making it a condo, you can sell the unit individually, but you can't sell the whole lot as an individual unit, because it has to be an individual unit. In order to be an individual lot that's sold separately, it has to have its own lateral.
Yep.
And I think that's a state law, not just our own
Right.
building codes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Public Service Commission requirement. And this is coming up a lot because we have some older duplexes and we'll have somebody renting each side. And then the owner of the unit wants to sell the whole thing. And the tenant that's living in one side wants to buy their
Their
half.
half.
And so they first come to the city and they ask us about a 0 lot line, and we say you have to have an individual water and sewer lateral. And then they look at the condo option instead, because that wouldn't require installation of a water and sewer lateral, which are about $10,000 each, is my understanding, depending on the amount of road work that has to get patched and things like that. So then they look at the condo option, but the condo option has a lot more financing restrictions. So the mortgage is much more challenging to get
Yeah.
for the condo. But I completely support not having to be part of the conversation about condominiumizing those. And I actually could see a benefit, even if there is an issue in the future. If we didn't put our stamp of approval on
Yeah.
it and there's infighting amongst, which there will be, because there always is, then we had no part in reviewing it and approving it.
I mean, a bunch of parcel owners could just decide to create a condo plat that it doesn't change land use, it doesn't affect the city at all.
Right, it's a,
So it's just a legal form of ownership.
yep.
The second policy decision that was kind of discussed, last time when you guys reviewed the issues and, like the issues and analysis was, CSMs. I believe we currently, allow CSMs to create up to 4 parcels, and there was discussion of allowing it up to 10 parcels, and in that case, it was for, like the townhomes or, 0 lot lines, in that case, to allow for, up to 10 multifamily developments. And so, we brought it up to our city attorney, and he just didn't have like a clear understanding of how, it could affect the review process. And so as of right now in the ordinance, we've kept it as only allowing up to 4 parcels. And so it's mostly just to let you guys know if you have any feedback on, how that could affect the development review or anything like that. We'd be happy to hear that, but just letting you know, we're keeping it at 4 lots as of right now.
So all it would mean is if someone wanted to do more than 4 lots for a townhouse, they'd have to file they'd go through a subdivision plat, not a CSM.
Mhm, mhm.
And I think that's because state law changed just a few years ago, allowing subdivision, CSMs up to actually an unlimited number for multifamily housing, like
Okay,
townhouses. And that's why I think it came up, but.
okay. Maybe
um,
that's something we can have our intern research a little bit more about to see how it, affects the review process, if at all.
I've
but-
not seen anybody else do it. I
Yeah.
think it was. Yeah, I mean, as much as I want to encourage townhouse development, I think the city is better off saying that anything more than 4 should go through the subdivision plat review and the zoning review process, because then we have more issues in terms of traffic access and landscaping and all the other stuff that we review in our subdivision. I don't think our subdivision ordinance is so onerous that it's thwarting necessary townhouse development.
Mhm.
But I mean, we could just always do it as a PUD again and just get, no, sorry.
Okay, and then I just put this as what's coming up. So their design standards, the fees in lieu of parkland dedication and park improvement fees, required improvements, and then construction. So these are currently being worked on by our consultants. So if you have any certain comments about these certain sections, we'd be happy to have them now, and so they can look into it and review those.
Do you want those now?
Yeah, if you have them, yeah.
Yeah, in terms of fee in lieu of parkland dedication, can we ask the consultant to draft us some language that says that as we're allowed to under state law, that income restricted affordable housing is exempt from the fee in lieu
Okay.
for parkland? But the Parks Committee might disagree with that.
Well, I can tell you that the Workforce Housing Committee is looking at the possibility of using our TID extension dollars to, in effect, waive the park development fees or the parkland dedication, and give our money
To ourselves,
to ourselves.
even though TIF can't be used for parkland development,
That's right.
but TIF extension money can.
I don't think there are that many.
It would basically be a
restrictions.
grant
Yeah.
to a housing
Yeah.
developer to pay for that portion of their
Okay, yeah,
project.
yeah,
Right.
got it.
Like if we waive the fee, nobody gets the money, but if we allow them to not pay the fee and we make them whole
No.
by somehow getting them the money to pay that fee, then everybody wins.
And I know the Workforce Housing Committee had made some recommendations previously on how the park fees are handled. I can't remember exactly. I feel like they might have had a few different considerations, but it's been a while since the park fees have gone to the council. So that's something that will need to get resolved before the
Yeah,
subdivision ordinance.
we were
gets
talking about that today. My only recollection is that we wanted to make it clear that we weren't saying affordable housing developments don't deserve to have parks or, access to parks. We didn't want that connotation there. We wanted it to be clear. It was to make the housing more affordable. Can I ask about the dedication of conservancy lands or passive recreation lands instead of solely parkland that's developable as a park? Is that and something that Parks, Recreation and Forestry Commission would entertain?
We probably would. I will say though, it's one of those gray areas. Where does parks end and conservancy begins? There's its own, we do have a conservancy lands committee that, like the trailhead that Abby was talking about, that actually didn't even come to us at PRFC, that went to conservancy lands. So, but that'd probably be something we would be talking about.
Okay.
Moving forward. And we've.
I'm done.
Okay, with design standards, it says to be consistent with the corp. Is it talking about establishing kind of a criteria of land that we would accept as dedicated parkland? Because I know that has been a point of contention.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure. I think it was mostly related to like trails and
Okay.
stuff and like easements of trails and that, but that is a good point that I think we could.
Well, I guess
probably
that might
include.
even be like in Article 9 with the dedication of land.
Mhm, mhm.
Cause, and I think that's what we were gonna talk about with corp is like setting having that document kind of be the driver of what kind of land would parks accept as dedicated land. And the corp we just selected the firm to do our corp at our last meeting, so that should be done this time next year.
Okay.
Which firm did you select?
Architecture.
Architecture. Okay, that's what I thought.
I think we would have to check. I was just pulling up chapter 236 again. I think it actually says for public parks improvement. So I think the reason we call them a park is the dedication of land has to be for a public park. Even though it can be programmed to be more conservancy looking. Right.
That's in statute?
Yeah, it was with stat 236. I'll send you the link, right?
Okay.
It says improvement of land for public parks means grading, landscaping, installation of utilities, sidewalks, playground equipment, and restroom facilities of land intended for public park purposes. So I think the requirement, and that's for the dedication.
Yeah.
Would that also apply to fees? I have to read it more carefully, but I think that's one of the reasons why we do it as parkland rather than
Mhm.
conservancy.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way, and maybe our attorney can figure out a way to build this into our ordinance as something that would still be compliant, but, give more flexibility.
Because we define the difference as largely about the programming and the use.
Mhm.
Even though people recreate on
Right.
conservancy land, sure.
I had just one more comment about this, and it's the timeline. First, I think some of the dates are supposed to be 2025.
Oh,
That's not a
yes.
problem. But I noted earlier our discussion of the narrative for planning and community development shows this is a 2020. I think this is supposed to be done in 2025. I don't think that's gonna happen. I just.
We're optimistic that we can get part 2 done within a couple months. Since most of it is like the technical engineering side of it.
Okay.
So other than, running it by all the committees
All
that
the
I had
committees,
listed.
that's the part that I
Yeah,
think
that
is
is.
gonna slow it down.
That's the main, I think, limiting factor, but I think we can probably get the main draft of it done within the next 2 months and then circulating it through the committees.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might consider adding it as 2026 goal number 8 to complete it if needed, again, just
Mhm.
to underscore that
Right.
you all are super busy and working on stuff.
Well, we took an amendment to the contract with Vanderwall to the council and we amended the timeline through the end of this year.
Okay.
So that's our plan is to get it done this year.
Daphne, I have the citation for you.
Okay.
It's Wisconsin statutes 236.45 sub 6 sub C. If a subdivision ordinance of a municipality requires as a condition of approval that a subdivider dedicate land for a public park, the municipality may offer the option of either dedicating land consistent with the plan or paying a fee. So it applies to both.
Okay.
When it's a park, not a park, right?
And the fee.
When it's a trail or a sidewalk, right? Because this was the whole issue about trails and sidewalks versus,
Yeah.
Does it specify that the fee has to be used then to acquire parkland?
That's the definition of parkland.
Yeah.
Parkland is land intended to be programmed for a park, public park purposes.
That's the programming. Does it really say programmed? Because
It's improvement of land for public parks means grading, landscaping, installation of utilities, construction of sidewalks, installation of playground equipment, and construction or installation of restroom facilities on land intended for public park purposes.
because that is a big differentiator between park and conservancy and our city practice that conservancy lands are not programmed spaces.
Mhm.
So you don't,
It doesn't say programming, it says purposes.
okay.
So
What if you run a sewer under conservancy?
Well, I mean, trails are sometimes referred to as
You're gonna get us
linear
in
parks.
trouble.
Yeah.
And so,
Linear parks.
Well, you can use, I think you can use land dedication to install a trail if it's called a park, in the same way that you can't use eminent domain. Right, so this is why lawyers make the big bucks.
It would be a joint meeting of parks and conservancy lands. You guys can hammer this all
But the important thing to
Great.
emphasize
Perhaps.
again is we can require that the dedication be consistent with our comprehensive plan and our parks plan. And so we want to make sure, as you were
Yeah.
saying, that the land that is dedicated is the land that is consistent with what we want for parks, not just whatever land is left over in
Yeah.
the sub,
Yes.
and the subdivider decides to give us
and
the worst land that couldn't have been developed anyway, right?
And then, we may, it's conservancy, so therefore we've met our requirement.
Mhm.
yes.
Any other feedback? Hearing none,
Yep.
I'll move for adjournment.
Thank you.